let's start with the Arsenal game. He was in the stands, as were we. Arsenal were in town today for the final game of the season. It was a record-breaking 30th defeat of the season, 2-1 the final score. Yay! Steve, that was quite the patched-up team, especially at the back. So I was fearing the worst, and in a way, it was better than expected.
Yeah. I mean, when that lineup came through, the first thing I did was went on Betfair and chucked 30 quid on Arsenal at Arsenal -3 on the handicap, because I just thought there's no way that we're not getting absolutely smashed here. And yet, fair play. That was excellent for the most part. Actually, I thought, given what we had available to ourselves, it was. Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a little bit of kind of stage management going on behind the scenes in terms of some players, probably a little bit of sort of asset management, if you like, not wanting players to get injured before they're due to be sold very soon. And yeah, as a result, that's kind of impacted the sort of roster that's available to Simon Rusk. Which, I mean, you go into a game against Arsenal. Fortunately, they didn't have to win the game in order to secure Champions League football or anything like that. Because ultimately, if they had, they'd have put their full strength side out. I mean, more or less the team that finished the game, really. But no, I mean, the fact that they finished the game with their strongest 11 shows how much we kind of gave them a game and probably annoyed them. Because I mean, I must admit, I felt we were good value for a point. At the end of that, and it was annoying that it was a really good finish by Odegaard, but the way that it's far too easy for him to kind of work the space, and yeah, unfortunately, Wolf Smallbone has come into a game cold and hasn't been able to get up to the pace of it. It's something that we've levelled the criticism. We've levelled a lot at our substitutes this season, and yeah, once again, once those initial sort of subs were made, it was the sluggishness just wasn't. Basically gave Arsenal too much of a foothold at that situation, when actually we'd not really let them create too much in the second half. A couple of balls into the box that we dealt with relative comfort, I thought. Which, yeah, as I say, given the makeup of that back four, when we looked at it at the start, you just think, oh god, this is going to be awful. But no, we were well organised, and I think the key was. That made it obviously very different from the Manchester City game, was that we had at least two outlets. Stuart was an outlet where he could bring the ball down. And the problem was he was a little bit isolated most of the time. But also, Camaldine decided that last game of the season in the sun, and it was time for him to actually play a bit of football. And he was very, very good. Apart from, I mean, as usual, the end product, but.
Who coined the phrase today? Last day Sulemana. Was that George or was that you, Alfie? Somebody
final day, Cameron. I mean, we obviously all remember what happened last time, didn't we? You know, the only time he's ever really taken a game by the balls was that final day against Liverpool in a 4-4 draw. So,
yeah, and yeah, so he was kind of the key to us getting up the field and putting any pressure on Arsenal's defence, and did it pretty well, I thought, for the most part. There was some usual ropey decision making. Once he got into a good position, it was then, okay, do you keep going and try and take the shot yourself, or try and bring somebody else into play? Problem was, most of the time there wasn't really anybody to kind of bring into the game. Stuart was doing his best to keep up, but I mean, Suleiman I would assume, is comfortably our fastest player.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's obviously going to be very difficult for anybody else to catch up and help him out in the attack. But I thought there were promising signs there. I mean, obviously, ultimately, it's going to be redundant, isn't it? Because most of that team, you could quite easily see not being in the side when we kick off in the Championship in August. But one player I suspect will be there is Jay Robinson, who I thought was very good on his first start. I kind of wondered whether it was a mistake on the club's part to leave him out of the under-21s game on Thursday, given given that was an actual final for us to win an actual trophy. But I think in hindsight, having seen his performance out there today, where he didn't look remotely out of place against the team that's comfortably the second best in the country this season. So yeah, I think fair enough on that one. And yeah, I think we were for the most part decent. Created chances. Ray has had 2 or 3 decent saves to make, and obviously we've pinched the stopped him getting the Golden Glove, I think, or at least stopped him having it outright.
Tied, I think. Yeah.
So that's another trophy that Arsenal haven't won fully.
Glenn, it was interesting to see the approach. It was obviously there were a few players that weren't picked because we're not going to be seeing them again, and then you've got one that we know that is definitely going to be off. Starts in goal and he's the captain. So it was kind of, for me, it was a bit odd. Obviously, no Dibbling either. So do we think he's off as well? It was a strange mix across the team.
You can go full conspiracy theory on it. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter why they weren't playing. But yeah, I do wonder how injured some of these players are. I accept Harwood-Bellis was injured from last weekend. Walker Peters, I don't think is injured.
Well, he's ill, apparently. He's been ill for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, rubbish. I suggest that Bednarek is not injured either. Tyler Dibbling, not convinced.
Not convinced either.
Who else was missing? Oh, Stevens has busted his arm, and that's fair enough. We'll let him off that one.
And it is unfortunate that we are having this discussion where ordinarily, if we just had loads of players out injured, it'd be like, well, okay, it's just an injury crisis and we manage it. But the fact that we frankly don't trust them.
Yeah, you question the attitude.
It's not a good sign.
You question the attitude, and the 2 players who are probably going to be leaving, and the 2 whose attitudes you 100% trust are Aaron Ramsdale and Matheus Fernandes, who both played. So, yeah, it depends how cynical you want to be about it. But the bottom line is they weren't available, and like Steve, I saw that starting lineup in defence in particular, and you're looking down the list of names trying to work out who the hell's going to play where, and.
Did you have to remind yourself who Charlie Taylor was? Because I did when I saw Taylor on the thing.
It's a funny one, Charlie Taylor, because the bottom line is 3 managers have had him and not picked him. Now, whatever the faults of those 3 managers, if 3 managers have had you and decided you're not worth a place, even in the squad most of the time, then there's clearly an issue there. Apart from the Brentford game when he was absolutely embarrassing and just followed Mbeumo around the pitch trying to sort out Uric's man-for-man marking thing, I don't actually think he's been that bad. He's actually solid. And for the first 10 minutes today, I thought he was trying to play left back, and him and Wellington were kind of waving at each other like he was supposed to be where. After that, he settled down, and I thought he did okay. The main surprise for me was that Sugawara wasn't completely dreadful, because the guy cannot defend at all, but he obviously can when he concentrates. I think it helped when Arsenal swapped over Martinelli for Raheem Sterling, and Raheem Sterling played down the left, and that seemed to help Sugawara, because even though he's got 82 caps for England, Sterling's confidence is just gone completely. He's just an absolute shadow of the player he was, and that seemed to help Sugawara as well. I thought Nathan Wood did pretty well. He was suddenly thrust in as almost the leader of the defence, wasn't he? He's the most experienced central defender out there. And I thought he had one of his good games. So yeah, for all these guys who either were injured or couldn't be bothered to play today, some lads came in and did quite well in front of the new manager. And who knows? I wouldn't necessarily want any of those 3 in the team next season, but it's Will Still's choice to make, isn't it? So Joe Robinson getting a game again. He's a little bit lightweight, of course he is, because he's only 18 or whatever. But I thought he was good, and it was his shot that led to the corner, which led to the goal. So there was some good stuff out there. But yeah, I must admit, when I saw the team to start with, it was like, my word, what is that? I think you'd have got long odds on having that as your back 4 at any point this season. But the other thing that helped, of course, is that you had the proper central midfield in there, and I thought both Downs and Leslie I thought they played really well. You had Fernandez.
Leslie's another one, though, isn't it? If you're picking players that are going to be here next season, then
I mean, he's not going to be.
Not him. Yeah,
no, he's not going to be. But I thought he had another good game, and the whole thing raised a few. The whole game raised a few sort of what ifs for me. What if we played 4 at the back all season? What if Leslie and Flynn had been picked as the central midfield all season with Fernandez? What if we didn't mess around so much at the back when Russell Martin was there and we just cleared the ball when we had to? I think we still would have gone down, but it wouldn't have been as embarrassingly dreadful as it has been.
Oh, we'd have been 25 points at least.
Yeah, just through doing the obvious things that we should have been doing instead of trying to be super clever with playing suicide ball out from the back or man-for-man marking all over the pitch, or this super conservative approach that Simon Rusk's got, which is basically as many defenders as he can, and that's what killed us at the end of the game because we were fine. He had to take Leslie off because he got injured. But when he did that, he brought.
They took their time though, didn't they? The way I thought we're going to concede the goal here while they're getting the sub ready again.
They brought on Kay Sander and went to 3 at the back. And the trouble, I mean, that the second goal happened for, 1, we changed the formation. 2, Flynn Downs, if he's paired with Will Smallbone, which he was after that substitution was made, he can't go forward. He has to stop and defend. And he was going forward attacking. We gave the attack broke down and we gave away a free kick or something.
And then Arsenal, an absolute nonsense free kick.
Yeah.
Almost as ridiculous as the one that Man City got from Dibling's murdering of Guardiola.
Yeah,
it was absolutely ludicrous. I don't know what it is with linesmen and that corner of the ground and just giving utter nonsense to opposition sides for no legitimate reason. Absolute scandal.
Yeah, but once they got up the pitch, Will was training cone, wasn't he? Odegaard just walked around him and scored. And you've got to take a foul there. You've got if you can't win the ball or we can't shove him off the ball, you've got to foul him. You can't just let him walk around you and have a free shot from 18 yards. So
he did get the wrath of Aaron Ramsdale, though, didn't he? Ramsdale was not happy.
Well, deservedly so, because Ramsdale's pulled off another couple of blinded saves yesterday. Today, like he's done all season, and to let in another crap goal through someone not doing their job in front of him is a tough one to take. But it's all over for Aaron now, and he can move on with our best wishes, I think.
He's free to go. Alfie, the last 8 games have been dreadful for pretty much everybody, apart from Ross Stewart. Everybody delighted today when he got that goal.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't scored since January 2023, which is, I think that's injury related only. Obviously, he's been injured since then. But it was a really nice goal, wasn't it? I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the winner of the corner, obviously Jay Robinson, because it was a sort of 5-minute spell where Jay was actually really dominating it. Actually, he won a free kick right outside the box a couple minutes before. Got his way through a few players, if I can actually speak, and had a shot and forced the corner. And then Ross Stewart's header is very good. It's a backwards header in a crowd of people, and what confidence that will give him for next season. You hope. I think he'll be really pleased that he's been in him out. I don't have the figures here, but he started 4 or 5 games is he now? He's been involved in the squad consistently for Simon Russ's entire tenure. It's the longest time he's been fit since he got injured back in January 2023, like I said. And I asked Simon, if you had a striker like Ross Stewart in the Championship, would you be happy? And he said, well, of course you would. He's powerful, he's tall. We know Will Steele's going to put balls into the box. We know they're going to be strong on set pieces, and he's someone that you can play off. If he can sort of enjoy a summer, actually have a break, away from sort of the rehab for once, and come back in next season fit and firing, he could be really useful. Like the £10 million striker they actually paid for him. I mean, his record for Sunderland before they signed him: 10 goals in 13 Championship games, and he got 26 goals a season before that in League One, including the playoff final. He's a goal scorer, so hopefully that will give him confidence.
I don't know if you heard his interview with Adam Blackmore on the radio, where he basically said he just wants to do a pre-season. Yeah, he basically said he wants to do a pre-season. That would benefit him massively because he's always been playing catch up, hasn't he? Even when he's had these little moments of being fit, he's not going to be as fit as everyone else. So he's always going to be stressing and straining, and that's what probably causes him to break down. So hopefully, it'd be great for us and for him if he can if he can obviously have a summer and then come back and really do the pre-season and hit the ground running next year.
Yeah, I think from the club's point of view, you obviously can't. You can never really guarantee that he's now going to play, 40 games in a season. You can never guarantee that. So, as a club, I would like them to, reinforce in the striker area and make sure you've got somebody who plays like him, and you have the profiles you need. But I really hope that I think he definitely can be a starting striker next season if he's fit and if he's firing, he really can be. So, yeah, as long as the club are sort of aware that there's no guarantees with him at this point, I think it's really exciting.
We saw our final VAR calls for a while, Steve. One was the offside. The other was the handball in the box from Declan Rice. Have you seen that back? What did you make of that? That would have been a bit harsh.
The offside. I've seen the highlights back, and yeah, absolutely fine. It looked miles offside in real time, but when you freeze it, he's clearly timed it well. Unfortunately, but the handball. I mean, that is just an absolutely disgraceful decision. His arm is clearly way out by his side. The ball hits his arm, and he brings it back in as a reflex. Now, I don't know what the referee saw in real time to wave it away. It looked. I mean, obviously, I'm down the other end, but it looked like the referee had quite a good view of it. But having then seen it back on the video, I'm just done with these officials just decided can't be asked to actually get involved in this. I don't want to overrule my mate. Just do.
The check was over very quickly. It didn't take long.
No, but it's just like, do your jobs. It's a clear handball, and you could see that Declan Rice was absolutely pissing himself laughing that he's got away with one.
Because he starts off with his hands behind his back, doesn't he? If you've seen it, and then his arm's
kind of out here.
Yeah.
And it's hit him flush on the wrist, and he's kind of then pulled it in, but it's still clearly a handball.
Just playing devil's advocate for a second, might it not have come off his sort of slid off his chest first?
That was my only thinking. I need to see it again, so I haven't seen it. But my only thinking was, did it brush his chest first? At which one it wouldn't be a handball. But I know I haven't seen it close enough to know.
No, I mean that was at my end of the pitch, and my first instinct was that's handball, because you can always tell by the way you could tell it had hit a hand because of the way the ball sort of came off, because it takes so much pace off it when it hits a hand.
And you had 9 players running at the referee. It's like we haven't done that all season.
That was good to see. I like that. It looked like they cared.
It was long overdue, frankly. I mean, we don't put enough pressure on referees. We don't do those sort of dark art things that win you influence in games. We're too weak-willed. We're too nice, and as a result, referees just think, well, if they're not appealing, I'm not going to give them anything. And yeah, I mean, you need all the help you can get at this level of the game. And yeah, I mean, once again, we've been absolutely stiffed. But I mean, let's be honest, in the Championship, referee sees that. If he doesn't give it, then you're kind of done. You've got no recourse. Yeah. But you would like to think that that a referee with actual eyes would give it next time.
Am I right in saying we have got through the season without scoring a penalty, haven't we? We had one missed, and then did we score a rebound?
2 misses.
That's incredible.
2 misses. 2 misses. Archer and Armstrong. Armstrong scored the rebound.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who would have been on pens today, but blimey, I wouldn't have fancied that.
Stuart, I reckon.
The guy at half time who managed to avoid slipping over and hit the cross and did actually win the crossbar challenge.
What a prize, by the way! A Norwegian Force cruise, like a genuinely good half-time.
Yeah,
prize.
and that's like what, 2-3 grand worth of prize.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Fair play. Yeah.
Save the best to last.
One thing on the pitch, right? We saw 4 or 5 players slipping over constantly in the first half. So then at half time we spent the entire half watering the pitch. What are we doing? Why is that kind of seen as a sensible thing to do? I mean, maybe players need to get longer studs, but then you run the risk of more knee injuries and that sort of thing. So if the pitch is already slippery, why make it more so? I just don't understand that.
It was the first time this season I've actually agreed with the miserable sod that's got a season ticket behind me. And it's taken until the last game for me to actually yeah, do you know what? Maybe there's something in that about the pitch. Last week, Ross Stewart won Player of the Week, which is pretty cool. There's a shout that he might be in for it again this week. Going to go around and get some names. Steve, any standouts for you?
Jay Robinson. Yeah, very, very good. Given that he's a youngster with basically no senior experience. Yeah, I mean, as Alfie said, he had that 5-10 minute spell at the start of the second half where he was running the game, and you just think, wow, I mean, this is something. It was kind of not dissimilar to Tyler Dibbling, I think, when he first kind of was getting starts, like that Man United first half an hour where he ran Diogo Dalot silly. It was kind of that in terms of the impact on the game, and yet Robinson's work was all that good work was through the middle, like in a really congested part of the pitch, and he still managed to have the composure and the drive to get into those areas, win a free kick on the edge of the area. He had that little slalom, which then eventually led to the shot that Raya saved at the near post, and then we scored from the resulting corner. So yeah, very, very promising. I thought, and I would, based on the last 2-3 weeks, I'd be very surprised if he's not starting games regularly for us in the Championship next season.
On Robinson, I mean, I remember now, maybe 18 months ago, I was speaking to somebody who works at the academy. I just sort of asking, who are the guys that you think are going to step up in the next couple of years, and he said Jay Robinson at the time, and this was before he only just sort of really started playing for the 21s. He was mainly playing for the 18s, but even then he wasn't dominating games in the way that sort of Tyler Dibbling was, when he sort of finished his academy career. But this person who works for the academy just somehow seemed to know that Jay Robinson was going to be the one who then developed, and then over the course of the next 12 months, I mean, he's gone from that bloke who you rely on in the 21. So he's got a goal and 3 assists in 3 playoff games this season before obviously missing the final. But all year, scored winners in late winners and set up goals and just started to get that edge and dominate games. And he's obviously, Glen stays still quite slight as a lad. But I'm sure that will come up over the summer. But I'll be picking the brains of that person in the academy for a long time to come, I think, because it was a great spot that, I wouldn't have said, oh, Jay's a bad player by any means, but I wouldn't have said he's the one that's going to, fly up through the ranks. And yeah, he'll definitely be in the squad next season. And, it's just up to him if he can force his way to stay there.
That was going to be my next question to you, Alfie. Is the person that picked him out still in the club? Is he still?
They are still in the club. Yeah. They are still in the club.
That's good. So I guess you'll echo Steve's comments. Anybody else you want to put up for Player of the Week?
Well, I usually pick someone who just outperforms what I expect them to do. So I mean, you look at that back three, and to me, you could nominate Sugawara or Charlie Taylor or Nathan Wood. Any of those. I thought they all had good games. Out of the 3, I'd probably say Sugawara, to be honest, because he's the one that, I mean, I've been very, very critical of him, and deservedly so, because he has been an absolutely shocking defender. No composure, no idea where anyone else is on the pitch, no real clue. But there was something about him today, whether he was concentrating more or whether they'd actually told him what he was actually like, and told him to improve, because I do think we're too soft. I do wonder if half of these players have been told that what they've done this season is just not acceptable and not good enough. But for some reason, he put in a really good performance. So yeah, out of those, I'll take Sugawara. I mean, it's boring voting for Ramsdale, but he pulled off two or three really good saves to keep us in it.
We'll probably need to put him in, maybe with Ross Stewart as well. Anyone else, Alfie, or do you agree?
Yeah, Charlie Taylor would have been mine, just on pure surprise factor, like Glen already said. I mean, my first vote would be Jay Robinson, but to add Charlie Taylor.
Okay. Anything else on Arsenal today? Or we done with that?
No, well, I thought it was a fairly positive way to end the season. At least I know it was a defeat, and it was obviously a late one again. And I don't know if anyone's done the maths on how many goals it's been in late games now, but I thought it was actually, I thought it was actually quite a positive performance. And Simon Rusk has obviously been given a brief: get 2 points, don't get smashed, and that he has achieved that. Obviously, apart from the Aston Villa game, which was 3-0, but even then it was sort of 71 minutes. 0-0. Other than that, they haven't conceded more than 2 goals, I don't think. And from that doesn't sound like an amazing achievement, especially when you think about the fact that 2-0 Everton, 2-0 and Leicester were pretty low lights. But when you actually go back and you look at you getting smashed 4-5, 4-5 every week, clearly he's hit that brief, to the minimum degree.